Hi class, hope everyone's doing well. So we're going into module 13, week 13. Okay, so only a few more weeks left. I hope by now everyone's caught up with your lab assignments, your quizzes. So now we're going to go into file processing. So last week we talked about streams, input-output streams. This week we're going to go take it a step further and talk about specifically about file processing. Okay, so you'll be reading chapter 14, which will cover file processing and different subtopics under file processing. You'll have your lab 7, so you'll continue lab 7. Lab 7 will be due this Sunday at 11:59. You also have an additional quiz, which will also be due this Sunday. And let's just go into some of the specific topics that will be covered under file processing. Okay, so here's a week 13 overview. Okay, so again, you'll be going over file processing. Okay, so the idea is that C++ is able to read and write to files, different types of files. So C++ views each file simply as a sequence of bytes. Okay, so it looks at it doesn't actually format the files in any way, but instead just looks at them as simply sequence of bytes representing different characters. Okay, so you'll be using the IOStream and FStream class templates. Okay, so there's different methods that you can use, different classes that you can use under these templates. So you'll also be using this iOS out and iOS app for outputting data or appending data to a file. Okay, so you'll be going over that. You'll be going over sequential files versus random access files. So we'll be going over using the seekg, seekp, telg, and telp for getting and putting the file position pointer. So we're working with the file position pointer for both the iStream and the OStream for input and output. Okay, you'll be talking about random access files and how to actually write and read to random access files opposed to sequential files. Okay, and the advantages and disadvantages of each. And then you'll talk about object serialization, so the idea of how to store objects of different types in the same file, and how to actually and represent these objects in a platform independent manner, which is essentially a sequence of bytes that can then be read back out and deserialized to recreate the object in memory. Okay, now this is not something that by default C++ has, but there are third-party C++ libraries that you can use that allows for object serialization. Okay, so there's a lot of code in this chapter as usual. Okay, specifically there's this transaction processing program. I recommend that you write the code as you read through the chapter. Write the code on your own. Again, this is how you practice. It's one thing just to read and look at things. That's a good first step. The next step is to practice. Actually get your hands going and typing and writing out the code and seeing things work for yourself. Okay, so this is the best way to learn is to practice, to write out the code. Okay, so there's some additional practice as well. There's a link to a few examples that you can work on. Also, the solutions to 14.6 and 14.7 have been given to you. These are at the end of the chapter. I recommend that you do all of the self-review exercises. And if you have any questions with anything, please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, quiz 11 and lab 7 are both due this Sunday, May 12th at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so we have a few more weeks left. Please check your grades, check your assignments, make sure you're caught up. If you have any questions, again, please reach out as soon as possible. Thanks.